Back in the 80s, I went to a therapist for 10 years. And she told me that I had an anxiety disorder. Duh. I knew that when I went in there. And 10 years later, she told me that, and she gave me these little bitty, teeny tiny white pills. And I could take up to 3 a day if I felt anxious. And it worked. It worked really good. And then she died. And I just didn't want to go through 10 more years of telling my life story to someone just to get those little bitty white pills. And I didn't have a regular physician. I still don't. I'm probably the only 50-year-old man without a doctor. But I learned something, and that's been 12 years ago since she died. I learned something traveling around the South. I don't think very many of those people have problems with anxiety. And I'm talking about the deep South. Arkansas really isn't. It's the South, but the hillbillies. I'm not talking about those people. They're crazy. The deep South, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, all of those people. They're just always so happy. Just glad to see you, in a good mood. And I learned something about them. They have a cocktail before noon. When it's a cocktail before noon, it's a libation. They have a libation, and I'm sure they have something with lunch. And at 5 o'clock, they have a cocktail before dinner. And they have wine with dinner. And they have a liqueur after dinner. And some of them have a nightcap before bed. So I think they're just walking around half lit all the time. That's why they're so happy. I think they are. In fact, in Savannah, they told us, they said, when you go to Charleston, they ask you what church you go to. But when you go to Savannah, they ask you what you want to drink. They're all liquored up around there. All down through the South, I think. They're just all liquored up all day long. And they don't care. They don't have any worries. Anyway, I'll never have a libation. I can't drink that early in the morning. But I know what's in my cocktail. I don't know what's in those little white pills. So I think it's better to have a cocktail. There's a story about a man. I have a coffee table book. He collects these amazing antebellum mansions. And he purchased one in Charleston from an 80-year-old woman. But the deal was she could live there the rest of her life because she had lived there her whole life. And she had her staff, her housekeeper and her cook and all that. And every day she had her libation. And at 5 o'clock she went to the formal parlor in her house and had her cocktail. And she dressed for dinner and sat at the dining table and had wine with her dinner. And she lived to be 100. He didn't get that house for 20 more years. But she did that her whole life. There might be something to it.